Hello and welcome to Dojo Live once again this Thursday, October 17th, 2024. My name is Kim Lantis, and it's my pleasure to be your host. Kicking us off and helping me co-host today is Sridhar Padmanabhan.
Hey, Kim. Great to be
Hey,
here.
Hey, Sridhar. And we also have our returning guest, Tim Flores, Chief Customer Officer at Groups 360. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Kim. Hey, Sridhar. Jason, good to see y'all.
Yes, looking forward to your valuable insights. And that's right, Jason Bond, Executive Vice President of Enterprise Event Solutions at Prestige Global. Thank you, Jason, for joining us.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Today we are diving into the second part of what is going to be a three-part series that's all about revolutionizing group travel. Today's focus is on group travel made easy for event organizers. So everything from big, huge conferences to weddings, we're going to explore how event planners can make smarter, faster decisions in this ever-evolving landscape. What is group travel and event planning? But first things first, Tim, Jason, I know that you're both freshly returned from IMEX 2024 in Las Vegas. I'd like to say that what happened in Vegas stays in Vegas, but not here, not on Dojo Live. So what was the vibe this year, and what key trends and kind of insights are emerging in the business events industry?
Well, I'll go first and say it was hectic as always, and I'm almost recovered. I'm getting there. But this year, it was all about event tech for me. As an agency partner for our planner clients, I'm focused on technology and other industry suppliers that create efficiencies, drive value, and really importantly, deliver data that proves ROI and the value of events for our clients as well.
All right.
As for emerging trends, there are a few that are really top of mind for me. First of all, resource shortages is something that I think we're all living with in the events industry right now. I feel like event planners are having to do more with less these days. And since we've come through the pandemic, in all sectors, corporate, association, sport, etc., they've had to ramp up their event portfolios to full complement very quickly to protect their businesses, of course. But I don't think, and it doesn't feel like they've been able to scale up their event departments to match. So this is really leaving what we see in a lot of cases, planners overburdened and really in need of support. Secondly, I would say cost management is another trend that we're really seeing on the forefront right now. And it's very related to the first point that I made. The feeling is that prices have increased, but vendor service levels have not. And I think that consolidation in several vendor categories has really contributed to this. So in hotels, in the technology side, AV, the decorator space, I think we all know who we're talking about here. And then the last trend that I really live with is value proof. Very important to me. It's really become more important than ever for our event clients to be able to prove the value of events. And most importantly, to prove ROI to attendees. And this is really important to attendee acquisition, audience building, and attendee experience expectations. And then secondly, proving ROI to stakeholders, which means more emphasis on justifying costs and budgets, monetary return of events, value of the event to the organization, and pipeline development, which means future value attribution. So I think that a lot of our planners are living with those things, but they're so overburdened, they don't have time to really focus on them.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's slowing down, right? Like I just came across a Wall Street Journal article written a few days ago that talked about corporations, especially because of the working from home trend, being particularly interested in like team building events and things. Like it's just gonna keep growing. They're gonna get busier and busier.
Totally.
Yeah, in-person events, the importance is increasing because of that. So that's one of the primary, if not the primary place where remote workers get together in person.
Absolutely. Tim, how about you? What was your biggest story?
It's always hectic. So I can't disagree with Jason there. It's hectic, but you know what? The vibe was excitement. And a lot of excitement just around the meetings and events industry. I agree with Jason. We were the busiest we ever were. We had more pre-scheduled appointments and more walkable appointments than we ever have in the years of doing IMEX and exhibiting at IMEX. And so much of the feedback we received from our customer base was, all right, we want to be more efficient. How can we do that? What does that look like? And they're searching for answers. Again, the walk-ups to me were the most important because those individuals just kind of were walking by trying to figure out like, all right, I have some type of inefficiency I'm trying to solve for. And they're trying to find a solutions, whether it's services that we offer with the sourcing and booking or on the housing side, or services we didn't offer, more of the on-site management and registration components. But there's definitely a need and a feel that they want to do better. They want to do things differently than they have in the past. And so overall, I think it was an incredibly positive show. Real good vibe coming out of Vegas going into 25.
Absolutely. I love it. Before we dive further into this topic of groups travel and what it means for organizers, Jason, again, I want to welcome you to Dojo Live. And I would like to understand a bit more about your role and Prestige Global. What are the changes that you see in the marketplace and in your company's business? And of course, how are you responding to these changes?
There's a lot there, and I'll take a crack at it.
One,
My
two,
role, right? So Prestige Global Meeting Source is a full-service meetings and events management agency, and my role there is to provide collaborative support to our planner clients at an enterprise level. So I strive to deliver insights, figure out where the opportunities are for our clients to be able to improve their events businesses effectively. Where we focus in supporting clients in a few areas to mention: centralized enterprise hotel sourcing, event logistics, planning and management, event technology, housing management, registration management, and experience design. And so, yes, there's all kinds of evolution, and the speed of change is crazy right now. And so the challenges that I just mentioned, I think, are pretty synonymous with the changes in the marketplace that we see affecting our clients. Like I said, things are just in such a rapid change mode right now. For us to be an effective agency partner, we need to be able to bring these insights to our clients from our entire sphere of experience, as opposed to waiting for our clients to come to us and say, this is the solution we need. We need to be able to help our clients identify where they can improve, as opposed to, if they've already identified what the solution is, we don't feel like we're doing our job for them. And I think a big one is that technology is evolving how we provide service, and Groups 360 and the capabilities of that technology platform is a perfect example of this. But as an agency partner, it's not replacing us. It's giving us the opportunity to drive higher efficiency and value for our clients when we wrap our service around it. Another evolving trend that we have had to adapt to is that our clients really need our support in different ways these days. And so it's not all or nothing with our clients. We're collaborating with clients on a variety of different service models, fully dependent on what works for the client. And then the last thing that I think has really been evolving since even before the pandemic, but has been exacerbated by the pandemic, is the way that clients want to buy. And it varies across different sectors and different verticals in the events industry. And so we've adapted as an agency to providing varying pricing models to accommodate that evolution with clients.
I like that. I was going to ask you kind of about some of the priorities when working with different organizers. I think you've already hit on that in terms of this, honing in on their particular needs and how that sort of changed. But I'm curious if there's still these existing bottlenecks. I know at the beginning when you were talking about IMEX, one of your priorities personally was looking in the technology side. It's also why we're here speaking with groups 360. But what are some of these bottlenecks that are still existing, or what have you discovered that's working well? And if you had your magic wand, you could say, "I would like to see this fixed." What would that be?
Well, I think the top priorities in supporting clients and what they're looking for are communication, transparency, and responsiveness. And talking about bottlenecks, the reason that I would say that those things are so important is because the biggest challenge that we're seeing is for the planners that we support, their ability to be able to manage up in their own organizations and be able to get decisions made that facilitate the planning cycle. Because when everything's so busy, everyone's so overburdened, and the speed of everything is so hyper, it makes it even more difficult for them to do that. So I think being able to deliver insights to clients, be very transparent with the data that we're collecting, and have them have access to everything all the way through the process. And us being able to deliver all of that information to them as quickly as possible, it supports them in being able to get decisions made in their organization. And there's no time wasted in trying to hide any parts of the process from clients.
I absolutely love that. And I think the transparency, the honesty piece leans really well into Groups 360, and even allowing people to be in the driver's seat, right? Right, Tim?
That's right.
Did you want to talk a little bit then about, we're leaning into the technology side in this idea of instant booking capabilities, being in the driver's seat, this Expedia Booking.com like experience that everyone is so used to. Want to speak to sort of how Groups 360's Group Sync leans into that?
Oh, absolutely. And so when we think about the instant booking side of our business, right? So we have our tools meant for really large conventions, citywide groups, to really smaller meetings that can be instant booked online. And from the efficiency standpoint, and even from a transparency standpoint, we're the first and only in the business that offer the information and data to customers in real time for group pricing and group availability for rooms and meeting space, catering equipment that they can book completely online, 24/7, 365. And our goal around this is to not only be transparent in our approach, right? So we want to make it as easy to do these things online than it was by picking up the phone and calling a sales manager. Jason touched upon some of the resource limitation that is existing today on the planner side. There's some of that still exists today on the hotel community. Not every hotel, but some hotels are still struggling, right? Especially when it comes to smaller meetings and events. And me as a former hotel sales manager, I can empathize with that, right? If I get a ton of different leads that come into me, and I got to respond to them, I'm very likely to look at the larger, more complex, or really higher revenue generating leads that can lead to my bonus and more value to the hotel, candidly, than I would be for the smaller events. So what ends up happening is these smaller events, they either don't get responded to at all, or they get a response way too late where that planner already has moved on from that property and had to already either call different properties or continue to adding to the RFP process to find somebody who responds. The goal and benefit of instant booking is literally putting the power of all of that information and data in the power of the planner. And so what we find is our planners who utilize our instant booking capability are doing it most of the times outside of normal business hours. And 60% of the time, they're doing and creating the instant bookings after 5 o'clock of that hotel's time or before 8 a.m. of that local hotel time, showing that these busy executive assistants or busy soccer moms, soccer dads, or wedding groups are doing it after hours, like nights and weekends, super early mornings, because that's when they have time available to do it. And our planner community is telling us that this is saving them literally a process that used to take them weeks, literally weeks to try to accomplish and get done, and doing that now in a matter of minutes. And I think that's really the true power of the transparent approach of Group Sync and the pure efficiency play on Group Sync as well.
For sure. Jason, hearing this, I'm curious as to if you could speak to some of maybe the positive you've seen as a planner, as an organizer, by utilizing platforms like Group 60s, allowing you to reach more customers. What kind of impact has that had on your ability to grow your business?
It's allowed us to drive the things that I've said we feel are most important to clients. And using Groups 360s allowed us to deliver powerful insights to our clients that other sourcing platforms don't allow us to do. So what I mean by that is on the front end of Group Sync's sourcing process, it gives us the ability to consult with clients on a deeper level. So because of the direct connection that Tim mentioned to market forecasting data, we're able to provide clients with data-backed projections and comparative analysis of destinations and venues, and it ranks them in best fit order based on all the specs that we pump into the system. And it gets us out ahead of that sourcing process and makes the clients feel more confident about who we're going out to the market to. And it's easy to do and it's quick, so it creates those efficiencies. And as well, it really serves the hotel venue partners as our end suppliers, which is super important to our clients because their relationships with those hotel vendors are very important to them. They're very important to us as an agency, and we're representing our clients' relationship with those venues and hotels. And so when we're able to make their time more efficient, like Tim just mentioned, it really sets up for a more favorable contracting environment as well.
And is there more space for this personalization element then? I mean, both from the planner side and the supplier side, because we no longer having to worry about, let's say, the easier, logistics. You can then hone in on making sure that the experience both before and at is stellar. What other kinds of pluses, I guess, are we finding out of this?
Yeah, so the process that Jason mentioned, right? Before we created Group Sync, and again, we initially built Group Sync with like larger, more complex meetings in mind before you kind of dug into the smaller meetings. The problem with more complex events and larger events is that oftentimes meeting planners are open to anywhere. And the problem with them being open to everywhere is that is a very laborious process for them, for partners such as Jason, and for the supplier, right? The worst thing you can get as a supplier is seeing an RFP that this planner is looking at 20 different destinations. And so what we want to do within inside Group Sync is understand your preferences and your priorities for your meeting and event. That could be the room rate, that could be the weather of the market that you're looking at, that could be nonstop flights from where your attendees are coming in from. And what Jason was referencing is we'll then stack rank those, not based on advertisement dollars that we receive. That is absolutely not our platform. It is 100% based on the planner, the feedback that you as the meeting planner, as the Group Sync user have entered in. And so with that information, we can essentially provide that market data. Again, if you've ever used Zillow before, we essentially have like a Zestimate, if you will, for different markets. And so all of a sudden, as an organizer, where I'm looking at those 20 different markets, but my boss just told me that, hey, you know what, I want a rate of $199 for my event. I can confidently walk into my boss's office and tell her saying, hey, listen, I completely understand that. But out of the 20 markets we're considering, only 5 of those actually fit that rate criteria. Every one of these other markets, we anticipate to be higher than that. So do we want to look at other markets, or do we have a more higher budget that we can actually look at to go after those top markets that you're looking for? And the goal is to do this is to save time for everyone involved in that process, right? By providing more information for the first time ever. Again, this data has only been available to hotels in the years past. So for the first time ever, we're saying, hey, planners, take this time to educate yourself, just like you do on Zillow before you go searching for a house, right? I'm not going to just walk into a $5 million house with my $500,000 budget and saying, can I afford this? I've already done the research, right? We all know before you buy a house, you know the school district, you know all these things now before you go in, because there's better information. And essentially, our platform offers you that same capability, right? Empowering you with better information to make you a more efficient planner, And essentially to be able to spend that time on the things that you really care about, which is making it a great on-site experience for your attendees.
Absolutely. Is there a loyalty side to this? I mean, Tim and Jason, in terms as planners, and then when you utilize these amazing tools to make sure that there's this amazing fit, have you seen repeat? I mean, there's the repeat customers coming and continuing to use your planning business. And then I guess also opening you up with your efficiency to bring on more customers. So there's twofold there. But I'd like to talk to the loyalty piece if you could.
Oh, absolutely. So today in Group Sync, almost 90% of all of our users are repeat users that are coming back again, right? And that's why during our last session that we had together, when you were asking the question of, hey, what's the advice to planners? And my advice for planners is always the same. Give us a try. If you think instant booking isn't for you, you think, oh, I really like talking with the hotel still. I don't know if it's gonna be that efficient. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I can customize the things I want to customize. My only advice is we're a free tool to utilize. Head to groups360.com or head to groupsync.com, create your credentials and try that, because there's a reason why our planner community keeps coming back for it, right? They're finding that efficiency within the platform, but you won't know until you try it. And so we just encourage you to try it, encourage you to take it for a little bit of a test drive. And if you have questions along the way, we've got an amazing customer success team that's there to help guide you through the process.
Perfect. Thank you. You know, Sridhar, I know that you had a really interesting question in terms of what's going to happen in the future. Why don't you go ahead and ask that if you'd like, or it may be a concern about this.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I think Jason answered that question upfront in his opening, in the sense that I think Jason said that group companies like Group 360 are not really taking away business from, Prestige Global, but on the other hand, they actually help them to do more. And as I was listening to him, I was thinking that probably in earlier days, you were dealing analog on both sides, Jason, with the customer side and with the booking side. With companies like Group 360, at least, you have an opportunity to go digital on one side of it. Like Tim said, get a Z estimate, so to speak, of what different markets and prices. What I'm wondering is that, sorry about the background noise in case you're getting some. So what I'm wondering is that now, are companies like yours now asking Group 360, for example, hey, I have, let's say Dow Chemical, right? Hey, Dow Chemical is my customer. They want to have offsite for like 4,000 people. There's a core group of 3 or 4 event planners. Once we do the booking, can they have access to selecting A, B, and C kind of a thing, right? I'm thinking that that's probably a natural consequence. I don't know if the market is there yet, and if the feature is already there, forgive me, but I'm just part A. Part B, if it is a holiday destination, I'm also thinking, and this may have been possible in the analog world, hey, out of the 4,000 people, there are about 40, 50 people, let's say it's in Orlando, they want to extend the hotel, and can we do that within this framework? Things like that. So I'm just wondering, these things have always happened, but how is it happening in the digital world? That's my question.
Well, Sridhar, I think what I'm understanding you're saying is, how can we extend? How does the technology facilitate the service beyond the booking? Is that accurate?
Right. I'm thinking that if I'm working for Dow Chemical and I'm probably going to come into you and say, Jason, do I have access to see which hotels, how many rooms, how many suites? Can I pick this one for Kim and this one for Tim? And that, I'm just wondering if technology has now enabled new features that was not.
Jason?
It's a great question, and that is a huge part of what we as an agency and a service provider gets into the management of. And Groups 360 has an amazing housing management tool that does exactly all of the things that you're talking about. So what that does is it creates a user experience that's very much heightened and service oriented for the actual attendee to be able to book their hotel rooms directly. And then we get to wrap our service around it. And the unique benefit, and Tim can speak to this better than me, but from as an event organizer, one of the powerful things about Groups 360's housing platform is that it is directly connected into the inventory of the hotels. So what that then extends to, related to your question, is it allows the booker to be able to make these changes and manage their own reservations and stays in real time directly with the hotel, which not a lot of housing management, if any, platforms directly have.
Right.
And again,
That's
Tim, I think you
exciting stuff.
can
Yeah.
speak to that better than I can.
No, so this wasn't the setup question, just to clarify. It wasn't like a
It did feel like it a little bit.
No, it wasn't, because I really did not know this feature existed. And I'm also thinking back to days when I traveled as part of a company. We had an offsite, 1,500, 2,000 people. And, this was obviously pre-pandemic, and we would get an email: are you attending or not? What is your t-shirt size? Are you vegetarian or not? So on. And then you get a confirmation. Then a few days before, you say, hey, once you get off in Orlando, go here for the buses ABC. And that's it. I was just thinking about that and wondering how things have changed. So
what's even more amazing in terms of how technology is facilitating that is it can be a seamless process, all driven by the technology platform. So we would have registration as the first touch point for any event like this, and have housing like your Expedia booking portal, for instance, integrated with registration, which again, Groups 360 provides. And then we've got a seamless life cycle for the attendee from beginning to end, and they never have to leave the platform, and it's all connected. They're not re-entering information, and it all lives in one place. It's amazing, and it enables us as service providers to really provide a much better experience for group attendees.
Well, things have progressed a lot farther than I thought, so that's exciting to hear.
But I think it's interesting. I do want to ask the question, because we're talking about technology. We're talking about service providers. You did allude to this at the beginning of the show, saying, I'm not afraid of the technology side. But there might be people listening in who are. And so I'm curious if you could speak to how, or this conception, misconception that platforms like Groups 360 could potentially lead to this disintermediation. Like that's not a concern of yours, and I'm curious, Jason, as to why not, and if you could speak to that a bit more.
Yeah, it's kind of a common fallacy at this point, but I can remember back at the beginning when this type of direct booking tool was being conjured up, and on the agency side, the initial reaction was that it was going to try to replace us. And now we've lived through it long enough to know that the fact is that it's actually just the opposite. So for us and our planner clients, and I think that planners listening would agree, there's always been and still is this difficulty in the work value equation when it comes to space only meetings or small meetings. And what that means is there's relatively more work involved to source and manage small meetings, and there's not as much value for like an agency or a service provider that you can really put against it. So you kind of need to take the good with the bad, and that's like a little behind the curtain agency side. But that's what we do. So small meetings, space only meetings, they're very difficult to place. And being able to have direct access to live venue inventory creates massive efficiencies for us as an agency and our planner clients when we leverage that. And so from the agency side, a great example is when we're managing an enterprise sourcing event program, maybe like our biggest client, we book 1,000 meetings a year for them. And there's a decent percentage of those that are small meetings or space only meetings. And so that's what I mean by you take the good with the bad. They're a part of the whole portfolio, but they're labor intensive. And so for us to either be able to give this capability directly to our planners or have us as the agency service provider leverage it, I'm not fighting it. So it's great to have it, and that's why I'm not afraid of it. it's a great solution for us as well as our end user.
I love
clients.
that perspective. I love that perspective because it's like, yeah, it's just making the lemonade out of the lemons that you're gonna have to face anyway.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Tim, did you have anything to add on that of Jason's take?
No, I mean, obviously, and I'm glad you brought this question up, right? Because we heard it a lot when instant booking first came out. And a lot of the use cases that we hear about of the planners using us is similar to Jason's, right? I mean, for a lot of third-party planners, they're independent contractors, right? They own their own business. And so if all of a sudden, again, to Jason's 1,000 meeting example, if a third of those are smaller meetings and take up just as much time as the other 2/3 of the meetings do, but I don't make that kind of money like I do on the other 2/3, the best thing I can do as a business owner is be really efficient at the ones I don't make a whole lot of money on. And so that's really what our planners see and our intermediary partners see the big benefit of. I can use this and I can get these things done again, even on nights and weekends when I don't have to wait for a salesperson to either get back to me or not get back to me. Those can get done. And I can spend my time really on those larger revenue generating meetings. In addition to, since I'm a business owner, I now have time to go get my next client, right? I'm going to get my next client who also has 1,000 meetings. And so that's what we want to be able to provide to all of our users, but especially our intermediary users, is the gift of time.
I absolutely love that. And speaking of time, we're actually at the end of our half hour today, unfortunately. But before we do say goodbye, I wanted to shift gears a little bit to the supplier side because Tim, that's what we're going to be talking about in our part 3. Can you give us a sneak peek into what's going to be coming up in our final episode, where we might be focusing, and why it's important for the audience to join us?
No, totally. I think the next episode is going to be great, right? So now we've heard our side from the marketplace side in the first episode. We've heard now from the planner organizer side with Jason joining us. And what we're going to hear on the third episode is one of the visionaries of kind of bringing online group space in. His name is Oral Mural. He is the VP of Partnerships, Experiences, and Distribution over at Hilton. He's got some amazing insights and really has driven so much innovation around this space. And so I don't think it's one that anyone here in the audience is going to want to miss.
Right. As always, it's been such an insightful conversation with you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Jason, for sharing your thoughts and expertise today. We certainly hope the audience enjoyed learning all about that, the event planning side, the organizer side. I really think that they did really, really inspiring and exciting, like you said. Please do join us, audience, on October 31st. That's when the part 3 will be at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific. And until then, stay safe, everyone. But you can also join us on Tuesday the 22nd, because we do have another show coming up. That's going to be with John Hardin of N3. But October 31st, here for the continuation with Revolutionizing Group Travel. Until then, bye for now, everyone. Thank you again, Tim, Jason, and Sridhar.